All right. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of Virtual Global Spine Conference. My name is Ali Baaj, and happy to be here with some of our co-hosts. And it's a really nice session today. This is going to be a little bit different. I thought that as we approach the end of the academic year here into June, we're almost there. I thought it'd be a nice thing to maybe review with some of our participants, those who are with us live today, but also many of those who will watch this later on YouTube. Maybe a little bit of history of virtual spine, how it all got started, and perhaps where we are and what our mission is, and really where we would like to be in the future in the upcoming months and years. Obviously, this is a very exciting initiative for a lot of people. It came at a very both depressing time, but also a time that that was filled with, I guess, innovation and creativity out of necessity, as they say. So we're just going to talk about that a little bit, and like I said, kind of go over some of the historical aspects of this, some of a lot of which people know about it, and perhaps some that they didn't know so much about it. So this website here, for those of you who do Twitter, it used to be called Chirpty, and then this was, I think, a couple of years ago. You go in and you put your handle, and then it gives you that circle, the immediate circle around your handle, if you will. And so this is from a couple of years ago. I went back as I was preparing for this talk to kind of type it in again and see how that changed, because obviously these things change a lot. But they said due to the recent changes in Twitter that we can't use that website anymore. So I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm sure it's changed a little bit with new faces and a lot of new folks who've been with us and who've been engaging and interacting with us. But let's go ahead and go over just some slides. I think some of you will find this really interesting. Right off the back, and I think this is really important. I don't know if everybody's aware of this or not, but this platform really from day one has always been relatively independent. It is voluntary. Nobody gets paid for this. And we really don't have any industry or institutional support. I will mention later on that in the beginning, of course, where I used to work in New York, my department was very helpful with some of the logistics and things like that. Now that our current fellows, and in this case, Dr. Hussein, who is in the background, always making sure everything is working, she's been volunteering to help us with the logistics. But honestly, there's really zero industry or institutional support, and we've kind of kept it this way, and we wanted it to stay this way as very independent. And that way, it's just focused on the things we enjoy and love, like discussing spine, discussing neuroradiology, imaging, surgery, independent of any external factors. So I think a lot of people guessed this, but maybe didn't know that per se. But this is an independent initiative. Now, for those of you that, everybody here was around in March 2020, I was in New York City. And of course, this is the picture of the now disgraced former governor of New York. But things were really scary. Everybody was basically shut down for several months. We were waiting for this ship to come with all these, 40,000 ventilators at that time. It was a really dark time in New York and in Manhattan and a lot of places in the world. But I would say probably New York City got hit early and hard in this unfortunate pandemic. And again, that's when I think some of us just went to, put on kind of their creativity mode, their innovation mode, and said, well, hey, what's going on? And number one, in terms of residents, in terms of trainees, in terms of students, it was very obvious that there were many months that were lost, if you will, right? I mean, you can't get those months back in the OR and clinics, teaching rounds, case conferences, definitely less hands-on training, and less research opportunities. And I think that's where these ideas were born, is how do we, this Zoom thing was becoming popular, and nobody knew how to do it at that time. It wasn't just us, but nobody else was really very fluent in Zoom either. But we're like, hey, we can do a virtual conference, right? Or we can do something that's a little bit different and from our homes, from our offices, at least where I was in New York City, we were not to have face-to-face conferences for, I think, at least 6 to 8 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So it was quite a bit of time, maybe even closer to 3 months. And that really inspired us. And I always, every year I show this at least once, because this is really how it started. It started over one tweet. And I tagged some of our colleagues that I knew, some I've never actually met in person at all. Even to this day, I haven't met some of these folks in person, but we bonded over our passion for education, for training, showing cases online. And I said, hey, you guys all show cases online. Why don't we do it in a Zoom conference? And this was the original gang here, if you will. Just all really awesome people. And all of them very well. Dr. Sully, Dr. Shin, Dan, Dr. Baum. I'll mention a few things about him. Dr. Gibbs, our superstar neuroradiologist, of course. So everybody kind of jumped in and said, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's do it. Dr. Dadale ended up coming later and switching out for Dr. Baum. But that's what we did. We would meet, maybe every 3-4 months on a Saturday, or it used to be a Sunday. We used to joke that we would only pick holidays so that everybody's available, but we would literally just talk about, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And this became the planning committee, if you will, or what we called ourselves the co-hosts. And then later on, we brought panelists and Dr. Selby and Galgano and Goodwin and Mamagani, and just to kind of add really diversity and new ideas to the group. But it really started from the ground up with a lot of the people that you're seeing here. So everybody, kind of heard this at one point or another. We're very excited about our very first session. It was back in April 2020. We did a couple of trial sessions, just a few of us, and we're like, wow, this is great. Let's scale this. Let's open this to everybody. And that's like I said, those were the days when we perhaps weren't that adept at Zoom, but a lot of other people weren't either, in fairness. And this was our very first slide for our very first session. I did put here Weill Cornell, because that was the department I was part of. And I'll mention this later. They were very supportive of this initiative. So I have to give a lot of credit to my former chair and some of the folks there that helped us with this. So we're very excited. We're launching this for the first time. I email all my buddies and we're all excited about it. And then everybody knows that we got Zoom bombed pretty badly. And I can't, I don't think it's a good idea to put on the screen how we got Zoom bombed, but let's just say it was very inappropriate language and pictures and videos. And we had to close the session. I think, about 20, maybe 25 minutes into it. And we thought, well, hey, there goes that. That was a good try, but obviously we're working with really phenomenal people. Everybody's committed to this. We were like, let's fix it. Let's find out what's going on. Password protected, just work with the IT folks, see what's going on, why is this happening? And luckily we came right back actually that day. We reopened it, we continued the session, and we came back and really never stopped ever since. And at that point, if you remember back in 2020, around the height of the pandemic, there were no ORs, there were no conferences. So there were like 200, 300, 400 people every week joining us. And we ourselves weren't in the OR either necessarily, or in the hospital. So we were doing this twice a week, once a week, sometimes twice a week. And it gained a lot of traction. And again, I did mention here Dr. Phil Stieghurtz, my former chairman, and Roseanne Henry, who is the director of special programs at Weill Cornell. They were very instrumental. They supported this. Logistically, they helped a lot. So I always have to give them credit, because they helped me really launch this. But again, we had a great traction. The co-hosts were very committed. We had some very loyal participants. Dr. Baisa, of course, from Saudi Arabia, was one of them and continues to be a loyal participant. And it really took off. And then we really just had a lot of fun with it. We would do it every week, sometimes twice a week. And then we just compiled a lot of sessions, if you will. I put here, thank you, Dr. Baum. Dr. Griffin Baum is a neurosurgeon from Lenox Hill in New York City. He was part of the original group. And I remember he worked really hard to put together the YouTube channel. And in fact, our logo there, he was a big part in putting that together. So we owe him a lot of gratitude. And in fact, some of us initially were against the YouTube idea. We're like, well, we're not sure. Maybe it's not a good idea. Let's just do the live sessions. You know, hey, if you can make it live, great. If not, sorry. We didn't want to enable people just to come back later and do it on the, watch the videos. We wanted actual engagement. Because remember, that was what was very popular about this, and I think continues to be the highlight of this program, is it was very engaging, very interactive. We would show cases, the audience would type their questions, the participants would engage with the program. So that live back and forth, real-time engagement was, I think, why this was so successful. And number two, we were able to bring folks that were very well known in the field in orthopedic surgery, neuroradiology, neurosurgery. And literally, in big conferences, right? You want to go up, you want to ask a question. You're going to ask a question in front of like 500 people, and you're nervous. So it's hard sometimes for you to do that. Whereas here, we really brought these folks almost to your living room, to your office, to your home, and you saw them talking to you live, and you can ask them a question right there in real time. So this created really a lot of value to a lot of people, and they found it very, very rewarding and appealing. And I think that's why it took off. And we got great engagement from colleagues, again, in these respective fields. And then before you know it, we were just kind of doing this really on a weekly basis. And we had a lot of fun with it. This is one of our favorite sessions with Dr. Hartle and Uribe going, debating and just having a good time with it. But it was lighthearted. The goal is to just, share cases, discuss ideas. We initially tried to do a little bit more of our own cases and kind of go over trauma, tumors, things like that. Then it became obvious that at some point we also had to engage, guest speakers, so they can come and bring, again, add diversity to the group and add, diverse topics, new topics. And honestly, a lot of these folks were experts in their fields, and they added great value to our program and what we could offer to the participants, either live or later on YouTube. This is one of my favorite posts by Victor, I think from Spain. I always love this because it's like pre and post Zoom or pre and post virtual spine. But obviously the reality is that everybody's happy that training is back to real life. Surgery is, open again. We're doing conferences, and everybody's very excited that thankfully the terrible pandemic is hopefully and slowly, behind us. But it was a time where we did do a lot of training, a lot of education, and a lot of really, really good case conferences that we still have today. This paper that was published in World Neurosurgery a couple of years ago, Dr. Rassouli was really kind of spearheading that paper, I think was instrumental to us. It was a pivotal point because it really gave us a lot of credibility as an academic endeavor, as an academic initiative. It was one of the first papers on teleconferencing during the pandemic. And we talked about, we published information on where our demographics are from, who's joining us, are they neurosurgery, are they radiology, are they medical students, are they trainees? So I think this was a really important paper for us and really kind of put us on the stage of academic circles, which I feel that we enjoy even to this day. A lot of folks ask, well, how was it? Why was it successful? I think it's all about timing, right? It was a good idea at the right time. And most importantly, it was a collaboration with really good people, folks that were passionate educators, folks that were passionate about spine. They already had a big social media presence. The medical students and the residents, but I'll tell you, especially the medical students around that time just kept perpetuating these, and reposting information on virtual spine, which helped us out a lot initially. The content was great. It was convenient. It was live. It was, you could easily ask questions and engage with the speakers. So a lot of people found it to be a little bit less intimidating and a little bit less overwhelming than these official, national organizational webinars, if you will. And it's funny that a lot of people may not notice this, but we have never, and we will never refer to these as webinars. They're really not webinars. They're active, engaging, interactive sessions is what we've always have been intentional about calling it that way. I put this up here just to, highlight that there are a lot of colleagues who did the same thing. We weren't the only ones that were doing this. A phenomenal group down in Miami did this for brain tumors. They've been doing it for a long time. I think they slowed down a little bit, but again, there were other departments and other folks that were saying, hey, this is a good idea, let's do this. And I feel in a way, I'm lucky that I feel we really did inspire others to contemplate doing something similar to this. But I don't think anybody really had the idea of doing this week in and week out, every single week, a live session, maybe 2 or 3 holidays a year, but that's about it. It takes a lot of work. And I think that's why it really stands by itself as the only weekly live educational session in spine worldwide. So we're very proud of that. I want to share with everybody some of the numbers, if you will, and where we are today. We have about 2,500,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I think we just crossed 2,000 registrants. So these are folks who get the weekly reminders. Obviously, on a week-to-week basis, we're getting maybe 25 to 40 live participants. The vast majority of folks end up watching it online. We've done really well, obviously, in the US, other places, thanks to Dr. Selby and others in Australia, certain parts of the Middle East. But the hardest thing about this, and I'll put this in later in one of the slides on challenges, we've always wanted this to be a live interactive session. So it doesn't matter what time of the day you choose, whether it's 8 a.m., 10 p.m., 3 p.m., you're always going to leave a big block of the world out during that live session. And I think that's probably the most unfortunate part of this is how do we engage more people? How do we share the live session with as many people as possible? And I think it's hard just because of the time zone difference. I mean, there are folks, that are say in the Middle East or Europe right now, where it's midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. sometime, depending on the time difference. It's not feasible to join us live, and they probably rely on some of the YouTube videos. But there's nothing like the live session where you can ask, engage with the discussions. And that's been one of the challenges of having a live session. This is what so initially we said we were doing bi-weekly videos just because that's what we did. We were just on here a lot doing this. So the first year we did 61, last year we did 41, this year we do 48. Almost every week we have a session that's recorded and stored on YouTube. And of course, a big thanks to Dr. Amna Hussein, who's helping us this year with all of this. The views consistently are increasing. There are thousands of views every year. The watch time is also increasing significantly. So we know that the message reaches a lot of folks. There are some patients that look at this, but the vast majority of folks really are trainees, residents, surgeons, radiologists, other or other physicians and clinicians, if you will. And we know that from our previous surveys. And every year we have a certain number of subscribers. Like I said, I think we're up to maybe 2,000 or 2,200 folks who are registering to receive these updates. So it's obviously been very successful, and we're very proud of that. We still want to push that live, engaging, interactive session, and I think that's probably an area where we need to do a better job in. As far as what's next, I mean, we don't know, right? We don't know where this is going to take off. It just depends on what everybody wants. We'd like to be a good resource and a valuable resource to other clinicians, surgeons, neuroradiologists, students, trainees. Every meeting we go to, every really every major conference, all of the hosts here have a lot of people that come to them and say, thank you for doing this. It's great, especially in areas where there isn't, here in the US and maybe in Europe and Latin America, there's certain countries and certain regions where there's just a lot of educational initiatives, and other parts of the world, there just isn't. And I think those are the folks that come to us and say, well, thank you for doing this. It's really helpful. It's a great resource. And that really just makes it all worth it. We're very, very happy about that. But we definitely need a wider audience. We need to engage non-surgeons. And one of the ideas we're floating is maybe to offset that or to mitigate the time zone issue is have kind of mini virtual spine conferences in each region at a time that's convenient for them. I'm personally a big proponent of that. I think that will be very well received if we have champions in each region in different time zones so they can have their own conferences according to their schedule. I think that would help a lot. But there's no question we've got a long way to go. Like I said, this is a huge team effort. Down at the bottom, you see here Drs. Griffin Baum and John Shin, who have been phenomenal with us from day one. Dr. Dodley came over a few years ago. Our most recent host, Dr. Garoy Alfredo from Argentina. But everybody here has been absolutely phenomenal. Been here really from day one. They work every week on this. We share the load in terms of the sessions, getting speakers, guests, showing our own cases. But this is a really dedicated team of educators, and just very proud to be amongst them and working with them on this initiative, which has been a lot of fun. So that's really it. That's the background of Virtual Spine. That's where we were. That's where we think we're going. It was very hard in the beginning, and it still is. It's a weekly commitment. Again, we're very proud that it's the only live weekly spine educational event worldwide. But I think we still have a lot of work to do to reach a wider audience and ensure that we're adding value to a lot of people's practices and their own educational programs. So I'm very grateful that everybody has given me 25 or 30 minutes of your time to go over Virtual Spine. Very excited about the direction we're heading to. Very grateful for the great team that has collaborated over the last 3 years to delivering this. And I know, and I see a lot of folks here actually that have been loyal participants. They're very they're big fans of the program. They always repost and retweet our initiatives. So I'm very thankful to them. And that's really all I had to say. I know Dr. Selby's in the background and Dr. Dodley are also in the background today. If they want to add a word or two, Mike or Alfredo or Nader, this is your chance.
Hey, Ali.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
It's Mike. Yeah, hey, good. That was just fantastic, man. Look, I suppose all I'll add to that is that maybe not so much in the live sessions because they may be a little uncomfortable with it, but people from industry who are our important partners, they love this meeting. And someone said to me that it's almost become mandatory viewing for people starting out as spine, OR reps and other things, just to get some insight into why we do the things we do. And I think that's been really valuable for some of the industry. And perhaps that is so valuable because it's non-industry meeting, right? And so it's agnostic. And so you can come at it from any angle. You don't have to see company XYZ education. You can come here and have a look at it. And I think that's been important for some of those people as well.
Absolutely, and thank you. You've been doing a great job with that. And I think that's the key here, and that's what we want to keep doing in the future. Think outside of the box a little bit. This is not just surgery. This is not just radiology. This is industry. This is physical therapy. This is marketing. This is compliance, regulations. This is everything that we want it to be, and we can be as really as creative as possible, because like Dr. Selby said, we're very independent. So this is the forum to do that.
Yeah, hi, Ali. I have a comment. Thank you for a fantastic overview. I just want to congratulate you, mastermind behind this. You always say it's a team effort, but I just want to credit you by the thinking outside the box at a time where no one was doing that, to be honest, because we're like really consumed. It was like an existential question for most people. Like, are we going to survive this? And you were like extremely optimistic and wanted to contribute and think outside the box with the time that we had. And really, I mean, looking back 3 years now, it's still going strong once a week. A lot of people are engaged. We have a lot of following, and and then we have this precious library on YouTube that you can go back and look at these talks. And I do too. I do. Some of the talks that I've watched a few times, to be honest. Some of the ones that I've really missed, I go back and watch them. Even the talks that I hosted, I go back and watch them and see how I did, how I can become better as a host, and listen to my colleagues and learn from them. So I just want to congratulate you on a tremendous effort, spearheading this and being the mastermind and engaging really the right people too, like accumulating the right team who really are good educators and they want to contribute to training the next generation of spine surgeons.
Yeah, no, we're very lucky. Thank you for that, Nader, and you've obviously been great. And like I said, it really is a team effort. I mean, yes, somebody has to come up with an idea, but it's not going to go anywhere without a supportive team. So yeah, we're very excited about what's been going on, and I think like I said, the challenge is how to reach a wider audience in a time zone and a time that's convenient for them. So here where I am right now, it's 3:30 on the East Coast. It's 6:30. In Europe, it's like midnight. In the Middle East, it's 2 a.m. And in Australia, it's 7 a.m. And that's what's hard about the online world. But I think that's why the YouTube library is just such a great resource, as you said, so folks can come back and look at this. But I really do believe that the future is regionalization, and the future is to have these mini sessions in different time zones and different regions of the world, so that they can just that more people can benefit from it. But it's been a great ride, and I tell everybody that we'll all close the curtains maybe at year 10. So we're starting year 4, so we got another 6 years to go, and then we'll call it quits. All right, and so thanks everyone for joining us. Again, this is a short, brief, different session just to highlight the history of where we are, of who we are, what we did, and where we're going. And we will resume normal activity, if you will. We will resume normal sessions with some great spine topics next Thursday. So thanks everyone, and have a great evening.